I can't keep myself. Okay, you're welcome back. Right now we'll be discussing inventory uh, management. Generally, we're discussing inventory as a now. As it when we talk about inventory, we are actually describing stock goods held at a particular level or stage within the supply chain. So either manufacturers, distributors, or retailers, they hold stock or they hold inventory of either raw materials, all right, component assemblies and sub-assemblies and finished goods at different points of the supply chain. The main reason for stock holding is that production and consumption for goods are not always simultaneously. That is why sometimes we hold inventory. So inventory is actually classified into five areas. One, raw materials. All right, could be called a inventory. Semi-finished or production stock. All right, as inventory. Finished goods can be held as inventory. In transit or pipeline stock can be classified as inventory. Material repair and operational (MRO) can be classified as inventory. So, in carrying out any operations, there's a bound to be. Sorry, there's bound to be some inventory of some sort, and which will need to be replenished. Now, your challenge as a supply chain manager or as an inventory manager is to ensure inventories are kept, all right, at cost-effective level without compromising customer service. And demand for finished item is more easily met from inventories held close to the market. So, whatever you're doing, we should realize that your work as an inventory manager also is to ensure to make a balance between overstocking and understocking. Get a balance so that everybody customers can effectively be satisfied. So, yeah, if you manage your inventory properly, all right, and it is aimed to ensure that your organization gets some benefits. So, for effective inventory management, will aim to actually look at one, provide an acceptable customer service level in terms of quality and order fill rate. Also, two, forecast inventory requirements to avoid overstocking while avoiding bottleneck in production. All right, and also minimize stock holding costs. All right, these are some of the effective uh, what inventory management or effective inventory management aims to achieve. All right, so when we hold stock within an inventory, all right, stock holding adds up some kind of cost. Why we hold it? Because when you hold inventory in the warehouse, you keep it in the warehouse, and those some people feel it is not necessary. All right, it is necessary because of you just want to keep satisfying, all right, customers, and you must understand, like what I said earlier on, that one of the major reasons of holding stock is so that because production and consumption of goods, all right, and not always simultaneous. It's not when production and consumption does not always go together. Sometimes when you are producing, all right, consumption at that period might be low, and sometimes when consumption is like production at that period may be low because this might be due to sometimes seasonality. For instance, you will agree with me that some products are vested at a particular period of time, and because they are, you can only harvest them and process them and store them and keep as against when it is needed for consumption by the customer. So when we hold stock, all right, at any particular level within the supply chain, there's a cost that is being added, and this cost area are so like something like capital cost, and this is the actual cost of stock held within the supply chain. That's the capital cost. They have what we call loss of interest. All right, loss of interest is the capital tied up in the stock that could have been invested to earn interest in other areas. So the value of this lost interest is what we call the opportunity cost of holding. All right, of stock holding. All right. Another cost again we have is service cost. All right. Service cost is a cost associated with management of inventories, which includes something like insurance. All right. Requirement. Those are service costs. Then what we call storage cost. Storage cost is the cost of handling, all right, and managing stock, including space and sometimes administration. All right. That's on the one also risk cost. Now, risk cost is the loss from theft, deterioration, damage, and obsolescence when you keep the stock in a warehouse within the supply chain. So, inventory management and control should seek opportunities for cost reduction in all the above area of cost that has been mentioned. So, we'll look at the opportunities for cost reduction in inventory management below, how we can actually reduce inventory, all right, because of holding inventory. So some techniques we'll discuss later. We'll be discussing some techniques, all right, for managing costs within inventory management. So there's a need for you, or there's a need for to balance stock holding cost with the required service level, and this method we sometimes use within the inventory for managing stock, all right, and balancing the inventory. Could be one of them could be what we call the maximum minimum level stock, minimum stock level, all right, where you have a position of quantity, you have a quantity to be held at a maximum level of, let's say, total quantity to be held within a supply chain could be like, say, 100 cartons of pig milk. That is the max. Then you now have a policy that the minimum level of stock we want to hold in this, I mean, in our warehouse or in within our inventory management system, we should be 20. So each time you get a stock, your stock hits 20, you place an order, all right, to get a maximum of not more than 100 stock in there. So you find a way to balance it. Then we have what we call a replenishment system, where you can actually adopt as the stock is going down. All right, you have a replenishment system to restock it, and also we have what we call reorder system, where you can actually find a way to make a position to place order. All right, whenever one stock goes out of the inventory, so that you can maintain the balance, all right, of inventory within the supply chain. All right, we also have what we call stock classification. This is about around enables you as an inventory manager to classify your stock according to their importance. All right, where you have in Pareto ABC, where you have it's actually in this stock classification method they use what we call the Pareto ABC. All right, where A, all right, is for fast moving products, B is for a medium moving product, and C is for slow moving product. And these days we have D for dead products. So it can be classified based on that importance, and you can stock based on that importance. All right. So as an inventory manager, the quick question that needs to be addressed are what to hold in inventory or what to hold in your stock. All right. You address questions like what to hold in your stock and in what quantities and what and when to replenish, all right, that stock. Those are the three major questions you need to ask. What do I hold in? What should I hold? Two, in what quantity should I hold them? Three, when to replenish? What time should I be replenished in the stock? So in attempting to answer these questions adequately, all right, it is important to understand that demand characteristic of product, all right, is important to be noted. E.g., when we talk about demand characteristics of product, in the sense it goes into classifying the demand for a particular product based on whether is it a dependent demand or independent demand. Now, when we talk about a dependent demand, we say a dependent demand, all right, we'll talk about the independent demand occurs when demand for one item, all right, called sometimes the parent item, is directly related to other products. All right. So, for example, the demand for connecting, let's say, cables for a desktop computer is directly dependent on what? The demand for the computer. All right, because the demand for A will lead to demand for this. So you can say the cable that we need in fixing our computer is a dependent demand. Or e.g., you can say my phone, all right, and my charger. All right. Now, the rise and increase of usage of phone will lead to the rise and the increase of what? This one called a charger. Now, this is actually this one depends on this, which is the primary, all right, which is the parent, all right, for it to be sold. All right, so dependent demand can be either vertical. All right, for example, for a chip actually required in production of a computer, or horizontal for user manual that go with what the finished product. So either way, it could be what dependent demand. So we'll talk about dependent demand is associated with like material requirement planning, all right, distribution requirement planning, and everything that has to do with delivering the product outside the organization, outbound logistics. Because directly the organization, sometimes you actually look at it from the area of the organization of to say what do the organization really depend for this to move. All right, so those are kind of, that's a classification based on the demand type. So I will look at the other one called independent demand. And independent demand is when demand for a product is independent of demand of any other product. Is independent. All right. So, like for instance, we can say computer demand for, computer demand for a laptop will be independent. All right. So most consumer goods are independent of the demand for other finished goods. So the distinction is necessary to determine the expected demand level and replenishment method. Because if you are keeping something that is independent, you will really want to understand that, look, this one needs something to drive it to go up. All right, but if you are dealing with something that is independent, all right, you realize that this one needs something, all right, that is, it's independent of any of the, it's independent of something. He must grow up based on, he must grow up based on demand. Also, if you want to put that into an organization perspective, both dependent and independent demand, you now realize that dependent demand could be something that the organization, all right, is actually key in using. Example, like your raw material, organization can depend in terms of not the customer, but we're looking at based on a production company, what they depend on. Now they depend on raw material, but what they are independent on is the finished goods. It is gone, it is gone. We don't depend on, but we depend on the raw material to come. So you can look, depend on the angle or your mapping within the supply chain. You can now make your classification on what is your dependent demand and what is your independent demand. All right. So there are different methods that can be used to classify or manage inventory even at independent level. And one of them is what they call the economic order quantity. It's a mathematical formula for calculating the cost of holding a stock and the cost of demand for a particular stock and the ordinary cost of a particular item. So it can be used to actually manage already inventory for what? Independent demand. Then we realize that sometimes for an organization, we can actually put its balance of how much quantity of cost, to determine the quantity of stock to be held within a particular inventory or warehouse. You want to peg it at where the cost of holding your inventory and the cost of your ordering actually meet. That point is actually your lowest. That is where you experience your lowest total cost within your warehouse. So at that point, you can tend to tell yourself, at this point, this is the total number of quantity of stock I want to hold. Now we talk about cost of holding stock. You're looking at every cost associated in holding a particular stock, like cost, warehouse cost, like fixed cost, cost of rentage of the fixed cost, capital cost, service cost, like we mentioned above, that we mentioned before. All those costs put together are what we call holding stock. If you calculate your holding stock as maybe as the quantity of stock you are putting in your warehouse increases, it's normal that your cost of holding increases. So you now look at your ordering cost. What is the cost of me ordering? That cost, look at the cost of buying the product itself, the cost of transportation, and also sometimes the cost of packaging. All will become your ordering cost. Now where they meet, that will be actually the quantity you need to hold, and that is where you will need and you'll be experiencing your total cost. All right. Now another method for managing independent demand. To manage inventory such as dependent demand, we use what we call MRP. MRP stands for what we call material requirement planning. So we have MRP1 and MRP2. All right. So MRP1 enables organizations to calculate materials of particular types at a particular time that are required, all right, for production. I repeat again, Material requirement planning one enables organizations to calculate material of particular types at the particular time that the material is required. To do this, the MRP one system uses sales order book, which records future known orders and a forecast of expected sales. All right. Now this system then checks all the components. All right. Now in other client, that system that checks all components, checks the component that is needed, that looks at managing the sales forecast and materials available. It's called the bill of materials. So the required the required system then check all the components. So the required that bill of material checks all the components required to fill this up that is required to fill this order and ensure that they are ordered in time. All right. Now, if you look at your slide presentation, I think if you look at slide 22, it gives an example of what a material requirement planning is, because it allows organization to make volume, all right, and timing calculation with the aid of computer, not just human brain. All right, and these calculations are relatively fast and easy, even for very large complex operation. So you can see orders coming in, you can see your forecast, all are built into to form what they call your master production schedule for production MPS. All right. Now all those components put together, we now look at managing your bill of material, which eventually you are holding to create your production system. All right. You can look at that and in slide 22 of your material where it talks about it. So the MRP concept is based on dependent demand items alone. So in this scenario, when we talk about dependent items, we talk about your raw material. So in this scenario, known demand represents by customer confirmed orders forecast create what we call a master's schedule. All right, for the organization, because when you've gotten your known demand, all right, and your forecast, all right, you can a confirmed order placed by your customer and the materials available, you can actually now have what we call your master's production schedule for the organization to produce. So if you look at this diagram, all right, we can create and calculate what we call the bill of material to enable the inventory and purchasing system to ensure that stocks are available as of when it is required. All right, so you can look at that. The entire MRP is a system that is put in place to actually minimize waste. All right, it is put in place to minimize waste in production because it looks at managing orders from customer. There's order already for that product, all right, or the order is known. Then based on the forecast you have before, you can actually merge them together. Then looking at your material, what you have internally, material required, you can actually have your MRP, all right, and make your production, all right, known. You can make your production plan and make your procurement plan for buying raw materials and production for making. So when you look at MRP2, which is manufacturing resource planning 2, which is actually slightly different from MRP1, is that the MRP concept has been expanded, all right, and integrated with other parts of the business, not just purely production. All right, it has been expanded to some places like finance, engineering, and marketing. So this has enlarged the version of MRP1, all right, which is now known as MRP2, all right, and it's actually been defined as a game plan for planning and monitoring all resources of manufacturing company. So manufacturing, marketing, finance, and engineering thus added up to become what we call MRP2. MRP2 is a system development of MRP1. It's an improvement for MRP1 in that it aims to integrate many processes that are linked to the production but may be located outside the production function. All right, so you can see that normally it's just an upgrade. All right, so just understand that MRP is actually used for what? A dependent demand system to manage inventory within a dependent demand management system. Of course, we have another method we can look at for dependent demand management system, which is called the DRP. Now, DRP is known as what we call distribution requirement planning. Now, DRP uses the same logic as MRP1, but in that it allows for planning and application of appropriate software to plan deliveries between distribution centers and regional depot. That is what MRP, all right, DRP, sorry, looks at. All right, it's actually used to manage distribution of how we can move it from the stage of raw materials, all right, raw material supply to the factory, the entire inbound logistic process to production, and after the goods is produced, now that is where DRP looks at. DRP looks at taking other finished goods to every regional or regional warehouses. From that regional warehouses, plan to the retailers, and how we get to the customer. So DRP is a system that is used to manage inventory on the process. So the idea of DRP is to achieve optimum volume per production when making delivery with more variety, all right, through quick response to customer requirements. So, and this would allow require planning that is integrated, that is coordinated, and also flexible enough to meet customer service. All right, so that is how DRP works. So DRP sometimes look at breaking what we call the regional distribution center, where you put all the goods are actually assembled. All right, then it breaks down the goods down to, maybe let's assume in Nigeria you have one company operating in Nigeria who have a regional distribution center in Lagos. Let me use Unilever Nigerian PLC for instance, where majority of their production are done outside Nigeria. But what they do in Lagos, Nigeria, is actually converting or making that their, because they bring it in semi-finished format into Nigeria, package it, all right, then that their big warehouse at somewhere in Lagos is called a regional distribution warehouse or center. Then it is now broken down to maybe to the 6 geopolitical zones: north, southwest, southeast, south, northeast, northwest distribution centers. Now, from those regional distribution centers, you now have what we call different depots that the team might actually go into. All right, from the different depots, all right, it goes to the hands of where the final customer. So from the distribution center, DRP looks at the production flow upward, at the same time trying to capture information that flows downwards. From down to up. All right, so it captures product flows from up down and captures information flow from down to up. All right, that is DRP. Now let's look at this subtopic called demand planning, all right, versus demand management. Let's see what the difference between demand planning and demand management. Sorry. Now, these terms actually, both terms, demand planning and demand management, have often been used interchangeably, but this is a significant difference. There's a big difference, all right, as we will discuss now. All right, so there's a difference between demand planning and demand management. So demand planning actually refers to the process that anticipates customer demand and ensures that there is sufficient product and service, all right, to meet the customer demand. That is demand planning. I come again. It refers to the process that anticipates customer demand, all right, anticipate customer demand, and ensures that there is sufficient product or service to meet the customer demand. So often, all right, it is measured in terms of right quantity, all right, right place, all right, to the required level of service and to the lowest possible of supply chain. You understand cost. And that's how you measure demand planning, to ensure that the right product, get to the right place at the right quantity, the right quality, and the right time. All right. So as a manager, you will discover that the process of demand planning, all right, would involve the following: 1, demand forecasting; 2, inventory management; 3, capacity planning; 4, production planning; 5, scheduling; 6, material requirement planning; and 7, distribution requirement planning. All right, those are what it will actually cover for what? Demand planning. Now let's look at demand management, which is actually different. Now demand management seeks to ensure that demand profile, all right, demand profiles, that is the inputs into demand planning, are smooth as possible in order to satisfy supply chain satisfy the supply chain operation. So customer demand is subject to peak up and trough, or volatility, which increases the supply chain cost. So this becomes the challenge for supply chain managers, as is required reducing or eliminating volatility of customer demand prior to input in the demand planning process. Now, demand management therefore aims to increase supply chain visibility, planning accuracy, reduction in total supply chain. On the other hand, organizations and their respective partners can develop a system that is customer focused, where promotion are used effectively to optimize supply chain performance. Alright, so there will be coordination within the chain to allow synchronization of material movement, which will be triggered by the customer alone. So requirements for demand management are: 1, information sharing; 2, accuracy of information; 3, timelessness of information flow in order to manage demand. Now, these factors I mentioned are essential so that risk of demand, the risk of demand amplification is minimized. Otherwise, effect of this application will cause what we commonly known in the palace of supply chain and forecasting as either the bullwhip or Forrester effect within the supply chain. And this means that any distortion, such as a demand signal moves up this pipeline, it is amplified, causing the increase in inventory at the interface. It means we'll talk about Forrester or bullwhip is when you talk about having a demand amplification that goes like this, open up. Alright, it goes like a wave. Watch my hand. Wow, out like that's where you see the bullwhip coming from the customer demand, because you don't have the proper information, alright, from the customer demand. Then retailer, because we are looking at the case reversal from the angle of the customer, because you need information management from the area of customer. So if you get the information wrong, it causes what we call a Forrester effect, where we can call it a bit of what, exaggeration or an uncertainty in the kind of information, and it will be very, 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 very bad for what, your demand management. Also looking at a proper way of managing inventory within the supply chain is what we call the vendor managed inventory, VMI. It's another strategy for managing inventory. Alright, it's though a concept of vendor management. It's actually a strategy that it's actually a vendor managed inventory. Let me put it that. It is a vendor that manages the inventory. Alright, VMI may involve the supplier managing the stock at the client premises. Alright, or the supplier may hold the stock on behalf of the client and make deliveries as when required by the client. Alright, so that's what we call consignment stocking. So either way, the client effectively outsources the stock holding operation, alright, thereby shifting this responsibility and risk associated with inventory holding to the manufacturer of the product, where you see the vendor manage the inventory on behalf of the customer. So this concept is what we call just-in-time distribution, JITD. Now, just-in-time distribution and efficient you see, when we talk about VMI, it makes use of what we call just-in-time distribution and efficient consumer response, alright, to properly manage this VMI properly. Alright, and it can be applied to any industry. And for example, if a grocery store or a clothing industry tends to use either ECR, alright, which is efficient consumer response, and whereas some automotive industry will say, okay, we want to use a GIT or a vendor management inventory, in the sense that, don't worry, you are holding the stock as the manufacturer, who are going to actually look for customer, and when to get the customer, you will actually help us supply them. So VMI can take several forms, and the simplest form of VMI involves having supplier visit the customer location at certain designated interval. Okay, maybe it could be daily or weekly, and resupply the customer inventory to predetermined level. So this has been common practice sometimes with office supplies and grocery industries for many years. Alright, so nobody wants to hold a liability. So manufacturer hold your inventory when we need it. That is what it's saying. We we can deliver to us. So another form of VMI may include downloading of information directly from customer computer system into the supplier computer system, maybe using the internet for analysis and determination of specific inventory and item, and quantify, then be resupply. So either way, you just find a way looking at the, excess of inventory is not held by the customer, it is held by the manufacturer or the supplier. So the idea is the supplier should be able to get a hint into the customer's inventory system and know when to actually make a supply before the person runs out of order. All right. So example is when you go to maybe next supermarket or these big mega discount stores around, where if you go most of these places, they have their sales representative in those stores. So what those sales representative does is the next cannot carry too much inventory or shop right. They can carry the one they can hold maybe for 1 week or two. But the business of holding excess stock, all right, is now becomes the prerogative of the manufacturer, who will be holding a large stock on their behalf. And because they are doing that on their behalf, it will now enable, all right, the customer to, like, Next or ShopRite, to place order, or the representative will now place order to restock at when due. So VMI is often based on consignment stocking, all right, and it's a process where the supplier manufactures known. The process where the supplier manufactures a known or estimated quantity, then keep them in stock at one of either the premises, or after their own premises, or a dedicated facility, or a customer location. But understand that at any time within the supply chain, the inventory is always managed by the supplier. Alright, so one thing you must understand again is that goods are always invoiced when required by the customer. So there are no stock holding costs for the customer. So with consignment stocking, the supplier is motivated to ensure that the consigned inventory moves rapidly through the customer inventory, while the customer benefits, all right, from on-time delivery. All right, so we have a variation of VMI. Another variation of VMI, all right, calls for supplier to put one of its employee in the customer location to actually manage the replenishment of inventory, such like we've said in the next or the ShopRite angle of managing their large inventories. All right, so VMI has challenges and benefits, and one of the challenges of VMI, better managing inventory, is that one, there might be unwillingness to share data because it needs trust. It needs me to see your account book to know what you've sold. All right, so there's unwillingness to share data. All right, and also seasonality of supply could pose what challenge. Then also seasonality of demand is also a challenge in VMI. All right, where some supplies are and demand sometimes can be up or down. Now there are also what we call risk of what is actually challenging, both risk to consumers and there's also risk to retailer, and also cost that is bared by the manufacturer. But the benefit actually is very high. The benefit of VMI gives consumer, it allows consumer get supplies when they need it, all right, without holding too much excess, and it also ensures that there is no need for retailers to manage their own inventory. It also ensures that supplier produce what is required, all right, and also management of storage space shared between supplier and retailer when they have to choose between dedicated location, and also the number of waste throughout the whole supply chain. That is what the VMI looks at because of that. All right, so there are so many examples of VMI, and it's actually developing, and we also hope that VMI, all right, will be properly evolved in such a way that we will not have problem, all right, with excess holding of inventory. All right, now let's look at what we call, under the management of inventory, let's look at what we call category management. Category management. You see, this concept aims to balance and prevent stockout situation throughout improve supply retailer relationship or relations. Now, the approach complements demand management efforts as we've indicated and discussed earlier. So, Now the retailer in that the retailer volumes are matched with a required variety. That's what called category management. So there are there are identified activities for category management. All right, because remember we talk about the approach is a complement, is complementary, as I mean complements demand. All right, management efforts. And some of the activities of category management will include like account management, demand management, multifunctional selling, price listing, customized promotion. All right, that is category management. All right, of course, in supply chain management, there's no how we can do without the word called outsourcing. All right, especially when you produce and you feel, oh, I don't have the means or the facility to move my product or transport my product. What you do sometimes is to outsource. Or I don't have the necessary skill, all right, or manpower to store my product. You can outsource your warehousing, all right, to a third party. So outsourcing of service has become an important activity in today's business. All right, you see, INC 2004 defines outsourcing as buying in of goods and service deemed to be non-core activity of an organization. All right, non-core activity of the organization. So organization outsource non-core activity to a third party in order to concentrate on the core activity and those activity for which they have core competency for. That is outsourcing. All right, and outsourcing has its own benefit and also challenges. And one of the benefits of outsourcing is that one, it frees management time, it reduces staff costs, it increases flexibility. All right, it actually improves cost certainty. All right, it reduces staff management problem. It improves consistency of service. All right, it reduces capital requirements. It reduces some risk, reduce risk also. Um, that is some of the benefits of outsourcing, but it has its own problem. So every benefit sometimes it has its own problem. And some of the problem of outsourcing will include something like one, can reduce flexibility of service, because when there's a need for you to rapidly change maybe distribution or how you do it, sometimes it is not flexible. All right, and sometimes outsourcing may need extra training for those people you are outsourcing to understand how, all right, those things will work for you. All right, how you guys can work together. So that extra training can actually cost money. All right, and outsourcing needs long-term commitment. All right, possibly outsourcing possibly need less control. It allows organization to have less control of the quality of the service, and also it can cause redundancy. All right, it may cause redundancy costs, and so many things that could go out of control of the organization. So there are rationale for outsourcing why organizations should outsource. So central to outsourcing approaches and decisions regarding whether to make or buy in. All right, an organization can attempt to match capacity with demand. So it should be able, be able to note that outsourcing may create unnecessary competition to the organization, and therefore one needs to guard against this eventuality of some of the risk of outsourcing. Now I talked about make or buy decision. Now it depends on the organization. All right. Now I remember at least in 2006 actually states that make or buy decision are merely economics decision, but that it also requires joint manufacturing and procurement. All right, involvement for both parties. So make or buy decision are taken at three levels. But can we make this service internally, or do we buy the service? Buying the service could be outsourcing. Making would do means like doing it on your own. So now, and to make a buy decision, I said is taken at and made at three level. One is at the strategic level, two tactical, three operational. All right. When we talk about the tactical, talk about, like I said, strategic. Here where you see the rationale for investment or going into long-term relationship, all right, and the framework for that is actually dependent on the organ itself. So the key questions that would be, all right, you want to ask would be what products to make, or what product do we want to source? What is the investment required to do it? Do we have the capability and technology to make? Now, if you can't answer the question right, you understand that you need to outsource. If you can't answer the question of, all right, the product you need to make, how much investment is required, and do you have the capability to do it or the technology to make it? Then, if the answer is yes, you go ahead to make. If the answer is no, you go ahead to buy. We talk about tactical decisions. All right, you will talk about the issues like where decisions relate to balancing periodic capacity constraint and addressing changes in demand. All right, either a fall or increase, making it impossible to satisfy. All right, from their own capacity. So some of the make or buy decisions are made at design stages, while others are made during manufacturing processes. All right. So there are different reasons why we can either make or buy. There are different reasons to actually outsource. So there are several reasons that have been given for organization to deciding to opt for either outsourcing, all right, or keeping it inside. But reason for outsourcing could include one, quality. This is when you are looking at improving quality in terms of your distribution or your production. All right, cost is a reason for outsourcing. Finance is a reason for outsourcing. All right, so there are many times when financial resources are limited, and so opting for to outsource may actually reduce that capital investment required for maybe new premises or equipment or vehicle. All right, also sometimes core business so that you can actually focus on your core activity and outsource anything that will be a distraction. Then sometimes you outsource because you want bigger corporation. All right, in order to avoid conflict that may have negative effect on the operation of the business. So it may appropriate to cooperate through outsourcing arrangement, and sometimes you outsource because sometimes um, that person you're outsourcing to we have what we call local knowledge of that business environment. So the crucial dimension of whether to outsource or internalize logistics, all right, within the firm is similar to either make versus buy decision in other material management. All right. Now, those are the reasons for outsourcing. All right. In this training program, it's just I just want us to understand what it's all about in inventory management. So the next time we'll come back again. We'll discuss um, just-in-time philosophy. I've been saying JIT, just-in-time philosophy, and it's linked to supply chain. All right, and some logistic also just in time because we've said it a lot and we've said it. We want to see it in practice because that is what is in vogue and that is what is realistic. It is cost effective and it actually improves reliability of service. So when we come back next, we'll be looking at just in time philosophy. Thank you.